Welcome back to the BODcast with Alli and Chris. I'm Alli Covington
I'm Chris.
And we are the creators of Bod by Alli Covington. And boy, Chris, we have had quite a week, haven't we?
It's been something.
Woo!
It's been a wild ride. It's been a fun ride.
A wild ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of momentum this week.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Why don't you dig in to the first thing on your mind? I mean, I know you've been doing a lot with the app. I'm super stoked about what you've been doing. So share.
Yeah. So what we've really been trying to get in the app now is making some new progress on some features that we've been, plodding away on and getting into a better position. And where we're really trying to upgrade right now is the macros, making those easier to use. Making it easier to find things and get things logged. But what we're really making progress into now, we've been discussing this the last couple of days. This is the part that I'm really excited about, is getting into this, what we call gamification of the app, making it fun to use, making it not just about, oh, I need to log my water and I need to do this and I need to do that, and making it feel less like chores and more like you're making progress, that you're doing something. Yeah. Getting away from that, I have to do this, to I get to do this. I get to press the button. I get to, I get to feel good about myself that I did things that are supporting my health. And that's kind of the important part. Is a lot of people think gamification and they think, well, video games and how they do things to kind of like hook people in. And what we're trying to do is take that same concept that hooks people in, those dopamine hits, and make it about getting the dopamine hits for doing things that are good for you, that are good for your health. Taking your supplements, drinking enough water, eating healthy foods, hitting your macros, making sure you get enough protein, making sure you're not going way over on carbs, and things like that, things that move people towards an unhealthy habits. Because too many of those things, like you would know, as you've kind of jumped into a webinar on all of this very recently, is when you're eating a lot of those unhealthy foods too many times, you end up messing with your gut microbiome, messing with your endocrine system, messing with all of these your psychology, bases on, all of this stuff. So that's what we've been getting into sorry. That's what we've been getting into the app now, making more progress on, and just trying to make it easier for people. So I think one of the questions that we've got, and some of the feedback that we've got, is this idea of, what do I do? What do I do on a daily basis?
Yeah.
And one of the things that we're starting to put in right now, I'm working on this morning, is getting kind of a checklist of things that you want to do on a daily basis, things that you want to accomplish and be able to build up those habits. So we're going to try to build an interface in here that just helps people build those habits, build that daily practice of, just doing all the things that you need to do.
I'm super excited because I already really enjoy it, really enjoy using it. And
yeah, me too.
Yeah, so that's going to make it even more fun. And then building a community around all of that is going to be really fun.
Yeah, so what this gamification will allow us to do is, behind the scenes, we're going to have some kind of point system. We'll figure out exactly what that's going to mean as we go. We'll get something basic in there to start, but there's some kind of point system where you're getting these points on a daily basis for doing things in the app, and then you'll be able to see how you're doing compared to your past. Because the one thing we always want to set up is, don't compare yourself to other people first, compare yourself to how you've been doing. See your own progress first. But we also want that little bit of competition that it gives people that, oh, I can be on the leaderboard. We've talked about leaderboards and having some way to win prizes. And, a good way to make these things fair is having not just one leaderboard for the whole app. That would be very unfair to people who are very healthy versus people who aren't. So we want to break this up into things like, maybe it's like weight classes, or maybe it's like, how, maybe it's, we use some of our internal metrics, like we have these like SI tests and these strength numbers. So maybe we can break people up into, oh, you're in this lower SI category or a mid SI category, something along those lines, so that the leaderboards are all like people who are at your same fitness level.
That's right.
Yeah, so we're always, just keeping people. It's like weight classes in boxing, right? You don't put 130-pound or 150-pound fighters up against 200-pound fighters, because that's an unfair advantage, and it would just be kind of not a very fun show.
No,
So
yeah.
I think the idea here is to kind of do the same thing, but give some ability for people to like compete with each other, and then to extrapolate on that, once we get that sort of in place, then the next step will be bringing in teams, letting people build their own team, put together. You could have, those natural leaders in the community step up and be like, cool, I'm going to be a team leader. I want to create my own team. And then you can get everybody kind of pooling their, points together, and we can have team leaderboards where there's competitions, right? And then you can get a lot more interesting, in terms of like not just the leaderboards, but get into rewards, prizes. Those are things we've talked about too.
Yes.
So that should be a lot of fun.
I'm very excited about that. I'm also very excited about a new offer that we've put together, so that for people that want a more personal, high touch, like daily communication with Alli, really like help me,
Weekly Zooms.
unfuck my fitness now. I don't want
Right.
any more time to do it, and I'm super serious about it.
Yeah.
Putting that together has been, and crafting that offer has been really fun. And I'm excited to launch that this coming week with some posts and some tweets. And you know what? You're gonna have to add that into the package there. I think
that definitely that'll be easy enough, because that doesn't even involve, I mean, we'll figure out how to do that. That's like a one-time purchase. So we're talking about we're sorting that out, but it's basically like a big purchase, more than the monthly subscription, and then transition people into the subscription longer term. But yeah, this is a
they
really
won't
cool
need
package.
me as much once we've fixed their gut and fixed their brain and fixed all of the problems that are like looming around. Then they won't need that high touch.
No, they just need that. No, then it's more maintenance. You transition from like, I got a whole bunch of stuff wrong. My gut's not operating well. My poop's not coming out well. It's like you get what's in the package. We were talking about there's a poop test.
That's not what we're calling this.
No.
No.
What are we calling
it? We will be doing testing. We will be doing some very important testing. Of course, we'll want to know what the blood tests reveal in terms of hormone levels and thyroid, testosterone, and estrogen. But we will also want to know what's going on with the bacteria in the gut. So we're going to do a stool test, and probably some other tests too that might be necessary.
Sure.
But yeah, so it's going to include testing.
So not a poop test.
No, it's going to include the probiotics that are necessary. So here's what really launched this for me this week. I took a class on psychobiotics and the gut brain axis, and learned some really fascinating information, such as that the mom's microbiome directly influences the baby's brain development.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it fascinating? Do you know why?
Why is that?
So the why is because the same embryonic tissue that creates the brain also creates the gut. Everything else gets separated, but there is a freaking direct line from your gut into your brain. And so the byproducts that bacteria produces when it feeds off of specific foods that you eat, and there's a lot of different bacteria, there's a lot of opportunistic pathogens and things like that. But when these bacteria feed off of your food, feed off of fiber, feed off of sugars, feed off of all this stuff, they give off different chemicals. So good bacteria that eats fiber gives off short chain fatty acids that trigger your body to burn fat. Bad bacteria that eat sugar sends off other types of chemicals that trigger your body to store fat and eat more sugar.
And this is like the fibers that you're going to find in your vegetables and your fruits.
Absolutely.
Is why we, in our macro tracker, we always say we try to get people to target, eating up to like 10 servings of fruit and veggies per day.
That's right.
And we don't demonize fruit like some weird people do for some bizarre reason, because fruit is absolutely what you should be eating.
It has micronutrients in it that your body needs.
Yeah.
You cannot get all the vitamin C you need from beef. I am sorry, carnivore addicts.
Yeah, and it doesn't take that much. You don't have to eat like 17 oranges a day. It's not like that. You
No.
need an orange and an apple and a banana and
You know potatoes have 30% of your vitamin C? Potatoes.
not surprised, but yeah.
See, so things like that, people demonize potatoes too. And I'm like, it's a really good source of a really solid carbohydrate that has nutrients in it. I'd much rather
it
have
takes a lot.
potatoes
Yeah.
over grains.
It takes a whole lot of potatoes too to overdo it. Like I've sat down with like you try to eat like a pound of potatoes on their own.
Good
It's
luck.
like good luck. I mean,
Yeah.
this is where people will go and they'll slap all kinds of butter and salt, and it's like, okay, well then you went and made it super tasty and go straight to your brain's dopamine kick, and it's like then you're gonna eat all the potatoes
That's right.
because you went and put a whole bunch of like super flavors in there to trick your brain into thinking you need more of this.
It's just like
So,
sugar.
it's like when I make potatoes, I might sprinkle a little bit of olive oil to them, but I usually just try to, go with some kind of sauce or something like that, something that's not a straight fat.
I put green goddess sauce
Yeah,
and some
sour
salt.
like
I put
light
salt
sour
on
cream is
everything.
good. Light sour cream is great for potatoes because it's not overly fatty, and it's
Right.
just it makes it because potatoes straight up. I've heard people say this before. It's like, yeah, try eating potatoes straight up, and it's like try eating
Why?
your toes straight up. Like, dude, what are you doing?
I
They're
know.
terrible.
So it's funny because I had somebody ask me, well, what about oatmeal? I'm like, do you like oatmeal? Yeah. Do you like oatmeal more than you like French fries? No. Well, I don't know about you. I mean, you can eat the oatmeal if you like, but I like French fries better, so I'm gonna eat my French fries. But you can
Yeah, I
eat
don't
oatmeal
like.
if you want.
I
And
don't
they're
get.
like, what? I'm like, people don't understand how your body treats food. And it's been so confused by the fitness industry for so long that it's ridiculous.
And I would
Well, it's
revise
not
that
just fitness,
question.
it's also dietitians. Let's
Yeah,
be honest.
the whole industry, and it's like ask people that question and say, do you like oatmeal without adding 4 tablespoons of sugar on top of it?
And they're like, uh-uh. I'm like, completely plain.
Right,
Really? I call bullshit on that.
right,
Yeah.
very much so. Because that's what you pretty
Totally.
much have to do. Everybody, like anytime I've ever eaten oatmeal, it's always like you're putting maple syrup and brown sugar on it.
Yeah.
I've never
Oh,
had it without that.
so get this too. This I did
Hmm.
not know that I got from the class.
Uh-huh.
The people that you live with, you influence each other's gut bacteria. You
Oh yeah?
influence each
How
other's
so?
microbiome. So if somebody that you're living with is on antibiotics, you
Hmm.
can pick up a lot of the same symptoms as being on the antibiotics yourself because you share your bacteria is in your household. Everybody, like, you touch stuff,
Hmm.
you are sharing the bacteria that comes from. So think about it for a second, right?
Yeah.
You put your hands in your mouth or you put your hands wherever, and then you touch something, somebody else touches it. They put it in, like, it's not hard to imagine,
Right,
right?
you're transferring a certain amount all the time.
Right. Same
Yeah.
way somebody would say, oh, you've got to wipe down everything because of coronavirus, right? So you are sharing that stuff. But I found that extremely fascinating.
And
Here's
that's always been fascinating to me too, because you'll hear about like parents who go overkill, like way overkill, disinfecting their houses. And it's like their kids have no immune system
right.
because
Right.
they've
There's no
never,
healthy bacteria to fight anything off.
right. And even if there was bad bacteria around, it's like your immune system needs something to do once in a while, right? Like when we were kids, it's like you went out and played in the dirt.
Yeah.
And kids don't do that anymore. No, don't get your hands dirty. You might pick up something in the soil. It's like, no, you want that kind of.
Mhm.
It's like you want something to do. I mean, George Carlin's got this really cool, really great skit that he does about how when they were kids, they swam in the East River in New York. They swam in liquid sewage. My immune system's like Navy SEALs or something like that. I forget how the skit goes exactly, but it's like along those lines, right? It's
Yeah.
like, they've got iron stomachs and blah, 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 because they just don't get sick.
I have
And
antibodies deal.
there's probably a certain truth to it. I mean, what you expose yourself to, you become better at dealing with.
Little bits all
And,
the time. I have
right.
antibodies deal. I don't disinfect anything in my house.
No. And I think every time I hear about that, it's always like, oh yeah, our kid doesn't have much of an immune or always gets sick, so we disinfect everything. It's like catch 22 much?
Stop. Stop. Well, and that's the other thing about the probiotic that this is a probiotic that we've always recommended, but
Yeah.
it's got so much more going for it than just building a really good populace in your gut in terms of a healthy, diverse microbiome. It also helps metabolize fatty acids that you eat. So if you eat a high
Hmm.
fat meal and you take the probiotic with it, it will literally keep that fat from spiking in your bloodstream.
So it keeps it from going in there so quickly. Right. Which is a lot yeah, right. It's a lot for it to process all at once.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
when you see the people that are like, ooh, right,
So it's
they're
like
all.
having a regulator on the system.
It is.
Yeah.
And so when I've seen those videos where somebody's like, ew, here's the blood serum after somebody's had a bunch
A
of meat to
cheeseburger or
eat.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, look at all this fat. And then look at it after they've had just a salad. And look, right. And I'm going,
What you're seeing is all the triglycerides when they peak,
right. But
which
this
is
probiotic keeps them from peaking.
keeps them from getting to be so saturated inside of your blood. Right. And then, it's always interesting because
And
that's
it's
usually
clinically
it.
proven.
Right.
Clinically proven.
When they do those videos too, it's always like some kind of 70-30 beef. It's like just loaded with fat. It's not
Which I would never recommend.
95-5. It's not, this isn't pork tenderloin. Like try doing that with pork tenderloin. I bet you it doesn't look much different than the salad
Probably not. Probably
because
not.
there's not much fat in it. It's like 97% lean or something. So yeah,
Yeah.
the probiotic has been great. I mean, I take it every day.
I'm super stoked because I just ordered their two new products that are called Cope and Sleep.
Yeah, you were
So
mentioning those. What are those about again?
it's got a different strain of bacterium of bifidobacterium,
So the one
and
we've been taking is more of just a general purpose.
it's a
These
general
are more
purpose.
specialized.
These
Okay.
are more specialized. These are specifically to help with the enteric nervous system and its response to stress.
What does the enteric nervous system play? What does that encompass?
So your brain operates the
Hmm.
central nervous system, right? We're all familiar with that.
Yeah.
And then your enteric nervous system is your gut and how that
Okay.
interrelates back to your brain.
Right. So central nervous system is all the brain, spinal cord, all the stuff going out to your skeletal muscles and all of that,
Right.
right?
The
And
enteric
then
nervous system is all about the hormones and the fatty acids and the metabolism and all of that. Like your metabolism, your hormones, your everything is all in your gut. And almost nobody thinks about their gut as being all that important unless you're not pooping every day.
right. And this is very much that whole autonomic part of the nervous system that's just like your brain is making it happen and it's getting feedback from, and you don't have a
Yeah.
lot of input necessarily day to day.
No, if you
Okay.
have cravings, that's your enteric nervous system telling your brain to crave something because that's the bad bacteria
Hmm.
that wants to make you a slave to what it wants. Right? So if
Right.
you're eating
Oh, that's
sugar,
interesting.
that's
Right.
the bad bacteria talking because it's getting starved. So it's telling you to go eat some sugar.
This is why you have to get over that hump. Whenever you get into those initial cravings, when you're just getting off of sugar, it's tough for like a week to 2 weeks. So, like taking this probiotic, this enteric
Helps.
nervous system one, would that cope you called it, and
Yeah.
that would help push through that. Maybe take the edge off of it.
It probably takes the edge off of it. I'll let you know, but not like I have sugar cravings to begin with because
No, you're not as much. Maybe I could be the guinea pig on that one.
you probably could, Mr. I love sugar.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I know how much sugar trips me off too. I would probably want to. Yeah, we would want to be
yeah.
careful with that. But no, I think I'm in a good enough spot now where that would be interesting to try that maybe in like a couple of months or so.
So the thing about it too is that stress directly impacts the gut. and that directly impacts the brain and that impacts behavior. So what's interesting to me is that
Makes sense.
the enteric nervous system can either exacerbate or completely turn on symptoms of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, um,
Is this getting into like
autism,
epigenetic effects? Right.
depression, anxiety, a lot of mood disorders that are epigenetically turned on happen largely from the enteric nervous system. And I was like, no shit. And that makes a lot of sense
Hmm.
because Alzheimer's, they figured out probably around 10 years ago that Alzheimer's was really type 3 diabetes.
I've heard that too. Yeah, it's basically a metabolic disorder. It's the brain cells kind of getting starved because they can't. We've all been told your brain is ultimately your brain needs glucose,
Yeah,
right?
but it
Or that
doesn't.
it really, really wants it. It uses it as primary. And typically, if your blood glucose drops, you can go into a coma. Like that does happen. That is hypoglycemia, right?
Mhm. That's got to be
So
extreme hypoglycemia,
it's
though.
going to be pretty extreme. Usually, it's the other way. Hyperglycemia is what
Mhm.
diabetics get into when the blood sugar goes too high.
Right.
But yes, I've heard the same thing. It's like at the cellular level, at like almost the mitochondria level in the neurons, they lose the ability to uptake glucose. So it's like they're starving and dying.
Isn't it amazing?
Right.
But here's the thing: the brain does not need glucose to function. It
No.
functions just fine with fat.
Yeah. That's something that I
And
remember hearing
and most
from.
people have enough body fat to release to get their brain moving. So like we don't need to go eating a high fat keto diet to keep the brain moving either,
No,
kids.
you
Not
got plenty
unless you're
of it.
super low body fat.
Right. And that's the thing too, is people often take that keto thing way too far, thinking, oh, I have to eat like 200 grams of fat a day to be keto. It's like, no, you just have to not eat a lot of carbs. That's all ketogenic really takes. It's the low carb part, not the high fat part. You don't have to go crazy
Exactly.
and eat like serious amounts of fat to be, yeah.
Yeah. No.
I
Mhm.
wonder how much rage there's going to be over that one. Because it seems to be such a it's a trigger for some people. Like, how dare you take the high fat out of my low carb? I
See, the
don't,
thing is, you can do a low carb diet as long as it's high protein.
yeah, I mean that's the important part of that people miss. Is like
You
focus first on your protein intake.
Yeah, you can do high fat, low carbs. You can do low carb. You can do high carb, low fat. You
Yeah,
can't do high fat, high carb.
no, which is like the standard American diet that people go on about.
Right.
It's like
That's what
that's your
that's
cheeseburgers and
obesity.
fries, right?
Yeah.
That's your KFC chicken. That's your Taco Bell.
So along those lines, you want to talk about something that's really interesting for a week. So last Friday,
Hmm.
I was super stoked after taking my son in to get his hearing test and the follow up to his tube surgery from his ears because they took his weight.
Hmm.
And this little guy was in the 10th of 1 percentile of weight for, I don't know, the first year and a half. And then I finally got him on the weight chart when he was like at 3%. I was like, woohoo, we're
What was
trending in
his
the right
birth weight?
direction. Huh?
What
His
was his
birth
birth weight?
weight his birth weight was like 5 pounds 11 ounces.
Okay,
Not a
and then more.
preemie, but not big.
No, a more typical is like close to 8 pounds, right?
No, more typical 6.5 to 7.5. 8 pounds
Okay,
is a little
okay,
big.
okay.
Anyway, and now he's in the 92 percentile, weighing in at almost 38
Right.
pounds. And I
He's
was
gone from one end of
super
the spectrum to the
stoked.
other.
Yes. I was like, yay, my weight gainer formula has worked because he has such a high metabolism that if he gets because he's running around and he's going all the time. He doesn't like sit still
Oh
he
yeah,
doesn't sit still.
I've noticed.
Yeah. And the thing about it is like if he gets a head cold and he just eats half of the calories that he normally eats, he'll drop 7% of his body weight.
Right, and
It's
that's always a scary thing for a small kid like that, where they don't. Even though he's in that like 92 percentile now, he doesn't. It's not like he's sitting there with like a spare tire going around his waist. He's still
Oh
pretty lean.
no. He's
Yeah,
a
he's still very lean.
string
Yeah.
bean. Absolutely. So so I'm all high on that and I call
Hmm.
you to tell you about it and you're
I
like,
remember.
"Great. why don't you hop on the scale today, Alli? And why don't you do a body scan? And I went,
Did
why
I
you
do
gotta
that?
ruin my good day? Why you gotta ruin my positive vibe? And you're like, it's not gonna ruin. And I went, I'm not ready for this yet. Because I felt
how
like I
long?
wanted to lean down before I got on it because I wanted to avoid feeling badly. And you did a really
Mm-hmm.
good job of convincing me that it's just data. I don't need
Yeah.
to place any kind of importance on the number. And so I was
And,
like, okay, well, we'll just see what it is. And I got on the scale and immediately hated you.
I got that.
Yeah, I went,
I got the
oh,
pouty face emojis across my text.
yep. And I think there were some of those like streaming tear emojis too. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, okay, well, I'm just like everybody else. I'm just like all of our clients. I am not
She's human,
impervious.
ladies and gentlemen.
I am not impervious to
No.
falling down the rabbit hole of thinking that I'm doing better than I am, of
And
justifying or skipping corners or things like that. So what did I say to you last Friday? I was like, fine, 5 weeks, drop 5 pounds. And
mm-hmm.
we'll see where I'm at. So
And it's
I
been like
did.
a week and a bit.
It's been a week.
It's been a week,
Last
yeah.
Friday. This is last Friday, but today is Friday. It's been a week, right?
It's been a
And
week.
so
It's been a week is an understatement.
I know, right? And I expected to lose a pound a week because that's what happens
5
every
weeks.
time I do this. But the difference is last time I didn't have the app.
Mm-hmm.
I
So you
couldn't
didn't have the ability to track as closely.
right. And I wasn't gonna write it down on a piece of paper. I'm like, yeah. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't track as close. So I didn't track as closely, but I did burn, 3,500 calories a week, and therefore I dropped a pound a week, and la la la. Here I am, right? So I've done it before, but this time I went okay. I veered off the macros a little bit. I went a little under on the fat, just a little under on the carbs, and over on the protein, keeping the calories about the same.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last week, I dropped 2.5 pounds and a quarter inch.
Hooray.
I
That's
was like, well,
awesome.
that's not a 5 week goal. That's like you know what? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's like a 3 week goal now.
I'm super stoked.
That's
And,
awesome. I'm
and
really
that
proud of
really,
you too.
thanks. I mean, it's a good reminder that of what the clients are thinking about, how they're
Mm-hmm.
how they're avoiding that, like they're avoiding facing the numbers. Everybody's avoiding doing one thing that is probably the one thing that will get you all the results that you're looking for, right? For me, I've been
Right.
tracking my macros, but I've been kind of like, oh, I'll go over a little some days, over a lot other days.
Right. And like the one thing I point out about what you said in the beginning was how you wanted to lose the weight before seeing the numbers. And it's like that's the backwards logic trap. That's the denial right there.
But it is the psychology.
Yeah, it
It
is the
is
psychology of it that we
it is
all
what we're
have gone through
doing.
it. It's like I remember feeling the same way. That's why I could empathize with where you were. And I was like, I didn't push you too much. It was just like a nudge. It's just like you'll feel better after you do it. It's gonna suck at first because it's been so long, but you do it and don't take it personal. Just look at the data. Doesn't matter what comes up. It's just okay, this is where you are, and then you'll make progress. And it's you're human and you're gonna have those emotions at first, but then you did really good. You just like you took a breath and said, okay, that's where I'm at. The scale's not lying to me. And once you see where you're at least then you have a benchmark. It's like, cool, now I know what I gotta do. Now your
Yeah,
work's
and at
cut out for
first
you.
I was like, this thing must be wrong.
Right, of
This
course.
thing must be wrong. I need to go home and verify with my scale at home, which I didn't have.
And the
So
measuring tape.
I set it up, but my measuring tape. And I
Uh-huh.
know every quarter inch of the measuring tape accounts for about 2.5 pounds. So
Mm-hmm.
every inch is about 5 pounds or
Mm-hmm.
10 pounds for me. And I was legit a solid inch bigger everywhere. And I was like, yeah, that happened. Okay, I guess the whole summer of wearing shorts and bathing suits and not tight fitting things, like you just
Not wearing the usual dresses and everything.
It
Yeah.
happens. So
Well, and
I made a decision that I was just going to get on the scale every day so that once I'm where I'm at, I don't go up 5 pounds before seeing it. I go one, and then I can
right.
get right back to where I'm supposed to be. So what I noticed is I, like anybody else, you have one indulgent meal and you go, that wasn't so bad. And then maybe a day or two later, you do it again. And then a day or two later, you do it again. And then that
It
becomes more
builds.
of a norm than not.
Hmm.
And you go, well, I'm only over by a little bit, but it doesn't take long.
No, I'm only over my calories by 10%, which might only be 100 calories a day. But then a month later, you gain a pound. 3 months later, you gain three. 5 months later, you gain five. 100 calories a day doesn't sound like much until you realize that's basically a pound a month that you're gaining,
It is.
right? You do that for 5 years, you just gain 60 pounds,
Right. It's
right? That's
10
why
pounds
you,
a year. Hmm.
right, you will eventually, that will catch up with you. So this is what you
Yeah.
do need to check in. You do need to check in with yourself. And going
Yeah.
5 years is, it's not just the going 5 years. I mean, obviously you didn't go that far off track over 5 years.
Right.
You were keeping in touch with yourself um, over that time, even though you weren't jumping on the scale. But the longer you had gone without being on the scale, the more you had built up this fear of the scale, where you were
Yes.
just like, I don't want to get on it because I haven't been on it. I want to lose the weight first. And it's just like those are all those little programs that go on in your head to say, we don't want to do this because this feels uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And this is why even a trainer needs, like, you will hear this from coaches of all kinds. It's like even coaches have coaches. They need somebody else to look at them from the outside in and say, no, 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 you need to go do this. This is important for you, right?
Hmm.
Because sometimes you won't tell that to yourself. Like you said, you'll, it's just one little extra. I had this
Quiet.
extra bit of, potatoes with this meal, or some extra, whatever it is, a little bit of dessert with another meal.
Or I'm tired, so I won't work out today.
Hmm. Right. And then there's 500 calories you didn't lose because you didn't go do that workout or that cardio or whatever, however
That's
long it
right.
was.
Now, mind you, I have high standards for myself.
Oh, you
So
do. Yeah.
even me with 5 pounds more is most people's ideal,
Yeah.
but it's not what I feel best at because I know what I'm capable of. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay, time to get this fixed. And you know what? It's been so enjoyable this week watching the scale go down, watching my energy go up, just watching how my mentality about myself has shifted
Just
from,
getting past that, well, how much stress were you holding about the scale? Just little trickles of stress in the back of your head,
I'm
right?
sure, a lot, the stress. Yeah.
Right? And how much of that was just like,
Anxiety
okay,
about
now it's gone. Yeah, a little bit of
it.
anxiety. And
And it
sometimes
wasn't too bad.
if people don't understand those, they're like, oh, there's this big anxiety in my life. And it's like those happen, but those are normal. Big anxieties are going to happen, and you prepare for those and you handle those. But it's all these little anxieties. They're like little paper cuts that are just like bleeding you dry from the inside. And it's they stack up. It's one isn't so bad. A scale, okay, but then there's two, three, four, 30, right? This is where people's lives pile up on top of them
That's
and they
right.
feel crushed under the weight of anxiety. And they're like, I don't know where it's coming from because it's coming from like 20 different sources. And it's
Right.
like, you need to start chipping away at those. And
That's a
this is
death of a thousand cuts right
death of a
there.
thousand cuts. And this is exactly like my point of all of this is getting into this is where a trainer is so important. This is what a
Yeah.
trainer can look at and say, let's take a look at this list of things that's going on and let's chip away at this one this week and
It's
then
really
this one the next week.
it's really knowing like we've got this together. Don't
Right.
worry. Like no matter what the number says, you're not alone. You're not
Exactly.
alone. We can fix this.
And that's
Anything is
basically all I
fixable.
got across to you whenever you were talking about it. I could feel your tension. I'm just like, just do it. We're going to get through this.
It's just data, Allie. I'm like, fine, data. Fine.
Yeah, once I started phrasing it like that, I seemed to get through to you then because I knew your inner data nerd would be like, okay.
Hmm. Okay, this gives me a project to work on.
Because, I mean, right. Because getting to the psychology of that, that's just about trying to detach. It's like you had an
Mhm.
emotional attachment to what that number was going to say about you. as a person. It was going to say, oh, you haven't been doing things, or that
Worse.
it was going to
No,
get that
it was about
imposter.
what that number was going to make me believe about myself as an effective trainer.
Right.
How could I let myself down like that, right? Those were all the things that were going through my
Mm-hmm.
head. And I
And
just
so
kind of
you
went,
needed,
you know what? It doesn't mean I let myself down. It means I indulged in my life and I got back on and it's getting back, it's
did you
back
just
on
like
track,
and it's a good
just like
example to
everybody
all of our
else.
clients that like trainers are not superhuman. They're not, they're not superheroes who have just six packs running around all of their lives. It's like everybody fluctuates.
You
Everybody
know,
has things in their
and
lives that are changing.
I would challenge anybody that says, "Oh no," right? Like I never get off track. Well, then you don't actually know what it's like to be your client.
Right. I mean, maybe there are 1 in a million who are like that. Like, I'm sure that there's like athletes who are just year round shredded because they may have to be, right? Like, you get like, I mean, people have thrown around pictures of like some of these soccer players. What's his name? Ronaldo, I think it is. He looks
Mhm.
just as jacked now as he did like 17 years ago or something like that. There's a meme goes around of him. And it's like, sure, that's like 1 in a million to 1 in a billion people are like that. That have that kind of drive, and that it's
He's
like
stuck in a
cool.
timeless vortex where time
Right? He just
really
doesn't seem to age at all.
insane.
Yeah, he's almost 40 and he looks 18. It's like, okay, that's crazy. But that's not most people, because most people have families, careers, kids, troubles, breakups, love lives fall apart, and that causes stress. And then you have
Mhm.
to deal with all of that. Nobody's going to expect you to be a ripped athlete when you just got divorced or something like that, right? It's like those are all very emotional things to go through, and everybody goes through some amount of them. It's a matter of course correcting.
Yeah.
And all of that is where a trainer can help very, very much. That's the important part of, like, people ask, why get a trainer? Why spend all this money? It's like, you can look at it as an expense, you can look at it as spending money, but I think then you're missing the point. And the way
Mhm.
I've always looked at it, and I told you this right at the beginning, I noticed very, very quickly, because I used to have this apprehension to spending money on myself in any kind of
Mhm.
self-improvement way. It just felt like I was wasting my money or throwing my money away. That was just the mentality that I had. And one of the
Because you
things
should
I
be able
noticed
to do
very,
it yourself, right?
yeah, it should be, right? That's what I would tell myself. It's like, oh, why can't I just do this myself? I must not be good enough, or that kind of thing plays up. But what I noticed very quickly was how my mindset shifted from thinking, oh, this isn't an expense, this is an investment. It
Mhm.
started very quickly because I started to see the results so fast. I
Mhm.
started to see the results not just in my bod, but also in my mindset. And I was like, I feel like I'm investing in myself now.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew you
And
were
then
the
you
real
start
deal.
feeling like you were worth it. You
Yeah.
start to feel like, "Oh, I have more value here than I thought I did."
And that's been building up ever since. I mean, that's the real investment that I've got, is realizing the value that I have to
Mhm.
give to this, to give to everything that we're doing, to give to, my future family, and just all of these things that I want and desire in my future. It's like I could see the value that I
Mhm.
give to that because of all of this investment that I've been putting in. And it's this is what a trainer does. This is what coaches do. So to all the people out there who are like, I don't know if I can afford it, it's like, do you want to make more money? Do you want to live
Well,
a happier life?
that's the thing. It's like when we unfuck your health from with your enteric nervous system, you will have more greater clarity. Did you know that the gut bacteria, the bad gut bacteria being having overgrown or being out of check can literally dampen your IQ?
Oh, that's not surprising at all.
And the chemicals that bacteria releases that goes straight to your brain causes brain inflammation. Not just gluten,
Hmm.
but that bacteria can cause brain inflammation, thus causing more of a like mental foggy feeling. Like, why can't I seem
Mm,
to remember stuff? Why does that seem like I why is that hard for me to understand? It's like it's because your IQ is being dampened by your gut health. And
yeah,
just clearing up your diet and going like, well, I'll just go full carnivore. Well, okay, but that doesn't solve the problem.
that's the elimination diet side of it. That does get rid of the stuff that's fucking you up, but
But it
then you're
doesn't but
also
it
not.
doesn't balance out the microbiome.
No,
Doesn't change the ratio of the good bacteria to the bad bacteria. You're just constantly
you're
fighting that.
starving it. Well, it's almost you're creating like a no man's land,
Yeah.
right?
What if
You're
you're stuck
just kind
there
of
forever?
scorched. It's like, yeah, then there's no bacteria really in your gut at that point.
Well, there's plenty of bacteria, but it doesn't, it's that you want to get the balance of the good bacteria up so
Certain
it can
strains.
so it can combat the bad bacteria. But if all you're going to do is eliminate the stuff that the bad bacteria eats, doesn't change the fact that it's still there. That didn't
Right.
change the ratio, didn't do anything for you except not continue to exacerbate the problem as much. But it didn't solve the
Mm.
problem.
And
All you
just
did was
taking
put
a
a band-aid on it.
and just taking probiotics is not really the answer either, because you've got to give them something to eat too. Those
Right.
probiotics, you can take all the probiotics you want, but if you don't give them food, they're just going to die in there too, along with everything else.
That's right.
Because you're kind of just starving all the bacteria out.
So the point to these tests that we're going to
Hmm.
put into this other offer that we're going to do, um, the point to them is for us to pinpoint what's going right, what's going wrong, and how to fix it. And it's not just
Right.
fixing it with supplements; it'll be fixing it with certain types of foods. Maybe your body just does not digest a certain type of food well. I cannot digest whey protein. Nope,
Hmm.
nobody, nope. You don't want to be around me if I've had even half of a protein bar. Is I
Uh,
notice. I'm like,
uh-huh. And so does everybody else.
shut up. Yes. Not that you've ever been around for that, so be quiet.
No, but I think I have an idea of what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
There are some
Right.
people who eat the wrong foods, and it's just like, dude, don't eat those.
Like
Whatever you
something's
ate,
wrong
stop
in
it.
there. Yeah, something's
Yeah.
wrong there. Right? Because the gas that you pass really shouldn't be stinky.
No, it should not smell like a dead rodent just crawled up your bum.
Yeah.
Because there are some people
Someone's
who have let
dying
those,
in there.
something's dead in there. It's been dead for weeks, and it's like, ooh, why? What
Yeah,
did you
no.
do?
I know.
That's some definite, like, something's not breaking down properly.
Yes. And so what we want to
Because
do is instead of just spending months and months and months, do it through a trial and error of like, well, try taking this out, try putting that back in, try this, try that, because that's a good 2 to 4 weeks every single time you take something out and put something back in.
you
We
got to
with
give
the
some time.
test,
Yeah,
yeah, with the test, we can pinpoint what's going on.
that's very cool. And this is a brand new test that our supplier has just come out with.
Yeah, fairly new. It used to be, apparently they've had it for a little while, but it used to be a 5 week turnaround. Now it's a 2 week
Mm,
turnaround.
nice. That's much better.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
not difficult to do. It's very, very easy.
and
And the
we
reason why I did it was because I haven't had one of these tests done since I was 23. And the last time I had one of these tests done was when I had this chronic low back pain that my chiropractor couldn't, like, it was like, well, you're in alignment. What is going on? Let's do this test. And I found out that I had a huge overgrowth of candida, which is a yeast, and
mhm.
that was causing my ileocecal valve to get stuck shut or get stuck open. And that was causing referred pain to the quadratus lumborum muscle in my lower back.
That
What most people
valve
don't,
is, where is it? That's in your intestine?
the ileocecal valve, it is the valve that regulates the flow of food from your small intestine into your colon.
Right.
And
Okay.
so what most people, what most trainers, even some health practitioners don't really understand is that there is that low back pain can be a referred pain from your gut. And they go, well, how is it that a muscle could inflame and swell because of your gut? Your body is way more intricately connected than damn near anybody realizes, because they've taken it
Right.
apart into these separate things: musculoskeletal system, circulatory system, nervous system.
Right. They've split it apart because it's easier to understand that way, but it's in reality, it's all connected while it's running.
That's
Like,
right.
you are not segmented apart into the sheets that are on your doctor's wall when
That's
you're
right.
walking around as a human being.
That's right. That's right. So it's funny because my son's PT is a very smart woman, and she and I were talking about that one day, how most people don't. She talks to a lot of physical therapists, a
Oh,
lot
I
of
bet.
people, and she's like, most of them don't know that that can be a referred pain. I was like, I know, right? So I was really interested in getting this test done for me, because I want to optimize everything. I think I'm
Yes.
doing well, but what if I have dysbiosis? What if I can improve it and optimize it even more?
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
can you imagine Alli with 10 more IQ points? Jesus.
I can. I'm excited.
Shut up.
I. l-
He's like, oh, because then you'll be getting close to me.
Is that what I?
That's
Maybe.
what you meant. That's what you meant. Yeah, shut up.
You'll
As
be getting.
if.
You'll be getting closer.
As if. Oh, okay. Yeah. Mhm. Back at like
Silly
you don't.
sillies.
Yes, like you don't do some stupid shit sometimes too. That I'm like, what are you doing?
I
What are
do
you
that on
doing?
purpose, though.
Oh, no. Okay. All right. Now
I
you're
gotta
gonna make
play.
fun of
I
me
gotta.
for having played stupid for so long. All
What do I
right.
do? Would
All
I do that?
right. No, yeah, you would.
No, I would.
You
You
are.
know me so well.
Uh
I can't even play games on you anymore. It's getting harder and harder to like end
huh.
runs around you. It's like,
Good.
damn.
Shut up. Run rings around me. Really? Really?
Did I ever
No,
mention that I'm good at digging ditches?
you are. You are very good at it. You were construction for a while, weren't you?
I'm good at digging holes.
Yeah. Ditch digging was your thing, wasn't it? I can see
Wheelbarrowing was
that.
my thing, but
I
yes,
can see
okay.
that about you. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And so
Heard. Anyway.
Mhm,
So yeah, so it's been a really good week. I got a
so,
text message from one of our clients today who's
mhm.
like at her goal weight, and she was like, what, how did that happen?
That's always a great text message to get. It's like, I can't believe I accomplished what I set out to accomplish. Because a lot of people don't have that belief, right? They're like, this is too hard, or it's going to take too long.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's what we're up against. So anyway, yeah. And then having the great conversation with the investor yesterday morning, I thought it was
Hmm.
going to be much more in depth. I mean, he saw the business plan and was like, cool, this is great. I'm going to take it to my board. Like, uh, there-
Right. We were all like, where we want another meeting between here and then, because that's like 4 weeks away or something like that. We're like, we can do another. And he's like, not necessary. We're
yeah, no,
like,
he's like, no, this is good. I'm going to jump on the app tomorrow. I was like, cool. That's why I was like, Chris, hurry up. You got
do the
work to do,
things,
buddy.
do the things. Right. And so, and it was all very short. He was very to the point. It was all like 15 minutes, go.
Yeah,
And we were like, okay. And
cool.
I mean, I think the biggest thing we were expecting was, all right, so what are the risks for me? What are the this? What are the that? And it's just like, he didn't come up with too much of anything. And it was either like, is this good or is this bad? We were like unsure afterwards. Like, he didn't
Yeah,
ask us anything. And then we sort of kind of read between lines a little bit, was like, I think what he's saying is he doesn't want to say too much, because this is where you get into some interesting territory around like accredited investors and SEC and all of these people and making promises and blah 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 blah. You know all about this because you are a financial advisor, and there's all kinds of language issues if you start making promises and you start saying you'll do this and that. And sometimes there's a lot of, 3D chess ish sort of read between the lines. Let's see if you can figure it out. I'm gonna give you half the puzzle and see if you can fill in the rest.
that's right.
And I
So
do
far,
get,
we've done a good job.
it seems so. And I've noticed this. I've kind of picked up on it. It's one of the reasons I picked up on it from this meeting was in all the times that I've seen other startups bomb with investors and not be able to get the hints that they were dropping, not be able to, like, they're expecting to be told, like specifically from an investor, what to do, what not to do, and things along those lines. And it's like the investors don't like, they don't just not like doing that. It's like they like seeing that you have the mental capacity and sort of wherewithal to read between the lines, because when they can do that, then they don't have to tell you so much.
Right.
And that's important because they don't always have time to. Like, you imagine you're in some business meeting and there's a bunch of conflict of interest for them and they can't really say a whole lot, other than give you a wink, wink, nod, nod, and you got to be like, oh, was that a wink? Was that a, and they can't even really wink. They just have to give you that look. They just give you the stare, like, yeah, do the thing. I'm backing you, but I can't say it, right?
Yeah.
And you just got to have to kind of know. And sometimes they also want to know that you know how to take some risk
Mm-hmm.
because they're taking risk.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't want a sketchy entrepreneur who's not
No.
willing to take risks. Like, why am I taking risks on you when you're not willing to take risks on yourself?
Right.
It's like, let's see if you're willing to put yourself out there and actually believe in yourself, because then I'm more likely to believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we may not be reading between the lines correctly, but just by going out and taking those risks anyway, that's going to bode well for us longer term. So
that's right.
It was all very exciting. This is getting very fun.
I am super stoked, and
Yeah.
it was so fun to go, oh, you're gonna love this. Oh, when you get on there, you're just gonna have a blast.
Oh yes, we dropped the word gamification, and his you could just hear his whole demeanor. He perked right up, like, I like gamification. I like stickiness.
He's like,
I like
I wrote an
retention rates.
algorithm for that. Like, ooh, he played with Oracle in
Yeah,
2012.
he was doing gamification for Oracle systems, and for people that don't, I mean, most people probably know Oracle. They are top 5 biggest tech companies in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are up there. They play with IBM and Hewlett Packard and those types of people. And yeah, I can understand a corporation like that wanting to gamify their. I mean, I don't know exactly what they were gamifying, but there's all kinds of opportunity there to keep your employees on board. I'm guessing that's what that was around.
Okay. Yeah, could be.
And it's a very interesting thing. It's sometimes it's tricky to do gamification right. You got to know your audience. You got to know what sort of gamification that they want to play into. Like, we're not going to create some like 1990s RPG into this thing, but it's going to be along some lines. It's going to take some things from that. I mean, the gamification things that kind of work are like being able to unlock things, being able to earn achievements, being able to see your progress and level up, and hit all these milestones. People love that kind of thing because it gives you that sense of, I worked, and then I achieved.
Yes.
And predictably, not like what messes with people sometimes is that when they can't see where their next goal is, and it's just like, it can start to feel like, oh, when am I going to get this reward?
Right.
And it feels too much like a slot machine.
Yeah.
And that turns people off. That only turns on people who have addictive personalities. And we're really trying to create habits more than addictions. We might play around with the word addiction here a little bit here and there when we talk about it, but it's like,
way.
yeah, we're trying to create good positive habits in people. And just going back to where we started, it's all about building up that daily routine for yourself. And eventually you get to a point where this will all just become like, yep, I just click off the boxes as I go through my day. And we'll make it easier and easier as we go. I mean, I've got a lot of ideas. We're going to take it step by step, but we really want to make this nice and easy for people. I think that's the important part. Make it not hard. Make you not have to jump through 17 UI screens to get through your day. Just be able to do it all from like one main dashboard is my end goal. It's just to be able to have like a nice little mission control in the app itself. And that's where we're at right now. That's what we're starting to work on. That's a lot of fun.
Exactly.
And then the other big part too is, yeah, I mean, what we talked about with the packages. That was really, really exciting, because I think we've loosely talked about it before, but never really in such concrete terms. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see just how many people it appeals to.
Oh yeah, no kidding. I'm really looking forward to that, because I love the high touch stuff. I
Right.
really love helping people fix their
Yeah.
problems.
Especially when you have people who have really tough problems that they're like, okay, I can't solve this on my own. I don't know what to do. I need some guidance and I need some accountability. Those are the two big things that every coach supplies to our clients.
Exactly.
So between that and
I love
everything else
being
that's
in
going
coach.
on.
Oh, I got other good feedback from a client of ours. She had to go to the doctor, and I'm going to skip over the disturbing part to her, but so the doctor started rattling off healthy diets that, you know, help you lose weight and get you lean. And she goes, Alli, she was absolutely describing your meal plan. And I went, yes.
There's some validation.
I love that. I
Uh-huh.
said, what did I tell you? What did I tell you when we first started in our very first conversation? I have researched a bunch of different doctors' diets. I took what they had in common, ditched the outliers, added in some common sense and what I know works from my experience and from a psychological perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
built a meal plan. And she was like, it's the right stuff. I was like, I know it works, and I didn't want to tell her because I just dropped 2.5 pounds the last week
And it's only getting better.
following my own meal plan.
Yeah, and from here we just keep refining it. We keep making it easier to use, and it's good. They're tasty. That's one thing
I
I
keep
love
making
about
more
our meal plans
recipes.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
they're usually very easy to make. They don't require a lot of prep work. And as we move forward, and
Or
especially
cleanup.
as we get into having more funding and being able to do nice videos, and things of that sort, those are all going to be very good. Those are going to be
You
nice
mean
additions to help people out.
studio videos?
Studio videos,
The videos are
yes,
nice. The videos are already nice, but you mean studio.
yes,
Like professionally shot and edited and all of that. Me cooking.
yes, with a nice, like, yeah, a big, because you can probably rent like a studio kitchen kind of thing, right? Like
Yes.
what they
And
used for, for actual TV shows, cooking shows. I mean, that's not in somebody's kitchen usually. It's usually like a
studio.
studio kitchen.
That's right.
And we can
Yeah.
rent something like that and spend a day making a whole bunch of yummy meals.
Yes. Wouldn't that be fun?
It would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot of ideas like that. We definitely want to take things, and as we move forward, as we get some of the other aspects of the business moving forward, getting into marketing, that's our biggest achievement at the moment for us on the business side to attain. Is That's our milestone,
Yeah.
is getting ourselves into that. Like, we've got our first big milestone for ourselves to achieve, is getting to 2,000 clients.
Yeah.
That's going to
Getting
be a
getting the marketing in a very systematic, repeatable, predictive way.
right. Yeah,
Dialing that.
finding our system that works,
Mhm.
and then, get into marketing, get into HR, and just grow, scale.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Be fun to add some other trainers as needed.
Yeah, we want to
To
get more
help.
trainers, and the whole idea of being able to build a culture of training around the BOD protocol, around our system, um, being able to build up, and we want to build up a tech team. We want to build up, we need we're gonna need designers, we're gonna need programmers, we're gonna need all those kinds of people. It's gonna be lots of fun.
Yeah. And then some animation inside the app too will be fun. And
Oh yeah, I'm looking
how are
forward
we
to
doing
that.
on the App Store approval?
So there's a few things there. The App Store side of things got a little pushback because we were trying to get other features into the app itself. There's not too many big hurdles to get into that. But what we'll do right now, so we are on something called Test Flight. For anybody who knows iOS development, we are on Test Flight, and what we're doing right now is just between our two phones. I can
Mhm.
update your phone remotely, and then what we're going to do next is do test flight with external testing. So I think this is where we could have some of our clients who want to be, let's say, beta testers, could, with an iPhone, could then tell us they want to get on the iOS app instead of being on just the Safari version of the app. It's basically the same app. I mean, there's very, very little difference between the two at the moment. I think push notifications is our biggest difference between the two, and that's
Mhm.
just around chat, which was mostly important for you because
Yeah.
you're getting lots of messages from clients, and it's kind of important that you are able to get back to them quickly. And so that'll be our next step. Maybe bring in some people who want to beta test the native app for us. I know that there is some bugs with it, that it doesn't work quite as well, so I'm going to want to fix those things first. And then that has an app review. They call it a beta app review, so I'm thinking it's not as strict.
Okay.
And if we can't pass that one, then obviously we weren't going to get onto the App Store anyway. So we'll have to figure out what we'll get a first taste of their requirements. of how strict Apple is going to be, then the next step will be to take it and push it to the App Store, get through the app review. And for us, because of the way we built the app, we're not going to have to get App Store reviews over and over and over again, like most purely native apps do. We're in this category called hybrid native, where we're basically a website that renders into a native app, that it's all kind of funny technology, but at the end of the day, it basically means we can update our app without having to go through Apple every time, which is nice. And it also means we don't need on-staff iOS developers and Android developers. We could sort of make that happen on our own for a little bit until we get to the point where we can afford that as a full-time slot.
Yeah.
Finding somebody that's like joint, somebody who knows a bit of iOS and Android would be the holy grail in that front, somebody who's just a mobile developer. But I'm not sure. I think that might be asking a bit much. They tend to silo themselves for various reasons. Developers can be like that. Like, no, I'm an IO.
Being weird. Huh.
Right.
Big surprise.
Yeah, it's almost like it ends up being like something like doctors. It's like, oh, you're a doctor. It's like, yeah, but I'm an ENT or I'm an oncologist, and I don't know about all these other people. I'm a cardiologist, and it's just
don't ask me about your toe.
Right. It's like, I know about your heart and all kinds of things about it, and I can describe all the valves and everything that goes wrong, but don't talk to me about your ear. I don't want to know about your ear infection. I don't need to know about your nose hairs or any of that stuff. So I mean, software developers can very much be the same, where it's just like, I know iOS and nothing else. It's like, great. Or very little else sometimes, but that's how it works. So yeah, excited to get into all of that. Excited to get onto the App Store. It won't be a huge difference for most of our clients because the way we built the app is it very much feels like a native app. From the browser, it's a little more convenient because you get it installed as an app. You don't have to go through any extra hoops to get it onto your home screen.
Good.
Little things like that. It's just a little more convenient. And
it'll
there will
make
be
it a little bit easier, but yeah.
And there will be other features that we build over, once we get through the main features of the app and we start doing some native specific touch-ups, there's going to be a few things that we'll want to use that will be a little better experience on the native side of things, but that won't come for a while. Cool. But just getting it downloadable, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, that's what people want. They want an app.
Yeah.
They want a native app because it's just that little bit more convenient. So we'll work on it as we go. It was a goal for this quarter, and I think we've made progress in that direction. We've made good progress. I
think we've done a really good job.
If we can get it into, I would be really happy if by the end of this month we had like test flight with external beta testers, not necessarily on the App Store. Maybe that'll happen faster than I think it will, and they'll just be like, "Cool, you're approved," because that's just the way the universe works sometimes.
I mean, it's the way it's been working for me this week.
It's the way it's been lately. It's been a lot of, hey, approved. Here's all your green lights through life.
I'm like, oh, I feel
has there been much of a red light this week?
No.
Just one green light after another.
Like even Wednesday morning, getting like the kids didn't fight, getting ready for school. Like it was easy. Like,
right. And for those that don't know these two kids, they have the nicknames Chaos and Mayhem. This is what we call them.
Yeah, but just between us, well, they don't know that. They are the kids, but
they are.
But sometimes they just really enjoy getting under each other's skin.
They are 10 and 14-year-old siblings. So yes, this is exactly, anybody who's got kids, they're like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to push your boundaries. No, I'm going to push your boundaries. Oh, yeah, I'm going to push yours. It's like, you're cute. Yeah, the learning curve of preteens and teens and all of that. I remember that age. Especially.
That's one way of putting it. Yes, it's such a special age. Okay.
Yeah, it's not one I would ever want to go back to by any stretch.
No, definitely not, because it's got a lot of very confusing stuff. Anyway, yeah. So even from that perspective, everything's been. I feel like that movie Jim Carrey in Liar Liar, Was it Liar Liar? Yeah, where he has Jennifer Aniston, and no, actually it wasn't Liar Liar. It was Bruce Almighty, where he
Mm-hmm.
realizes that he's got the power of God, so he gives himself green lights all the way through and no traffic. It's what
I remember. Yeah.
it's what's felt like this week.
Right.
Green lights, no traffic. Thank
It's
you.
almost like you've got one of those little devices that the ambulances have, and it's just like, I'm going God mode.
Yeah,
Green lights,
yeah,
please. Give me
yeah.
sirens and green lights, and get it. Everybody just make way.
The only diversion was having to pick Xander up from school on Monday
Yeah, he wasn't
and
feeling
not
too well, huh?
keep him home on Tuesday and not let him go back till Wednesday. Well, I guess he showed up on the bus. I mean, he was on the bus and he showed up at school asleep and then didn't wake up. And so literally I was on my way home from the gym on Monday and they said the nurse called, you got to come pick him up. He's been asleep and they're like, he's got a temperature of 100. It's not enough to send him home. But
Yeah, just a little warm.
they're a super safe facility. Last year during the COVID lockdowns, when every school was closed, they were the only ones that were open. And because of all of their protocols they put in place, not a single kid got COVID. Not a single kid got a head cold or the flu either, by the way.
Right.
So I was like, sure. I mean, if he's asleep, it doesn't actually make any sense to keep him there. And so
No, he might as well go home with mama.
yeah, I felt like his body was run down. He needed rest. He's gone to sleep early every night this week. He's
Mm-hmm.
he only Wednesday morning he woke up at 4:30 because he went to sleep so early on Tuesday. So Wednesday was a really long day. But it was such a great day that it didn't feel long. So because everything was going so smoothly and so beautifully, it was like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that would be the only thing that I would say was more of a yellow light. Was like, oh well, I can't work out on Tuesday because I can't take him to the kids club.
Right.
In case he
No,
does have something, I'm like, just because he doesn't have a fever, but his body's run down, like I'm not that
it's not
much of
worth
an
pushing.
asshole.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
need
gonna
to go
go
to the
push.
gym, kid.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
nah. So
No,
we chilled out on Tuesday and
no.
just took it
Alli
easy.
needs a break now and then too.
I didn't need a break on Tuesday. I was ready to rock, but like, okay, it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'll go kill it tomorrow more than
Uh-huh.
usual, and then I'm going to
That's
gonna
that's the attitude. Yeah, I'll go make up for it tomorrow. Big smiles. Yeah.
yes. Well, I'll have a little more time because it's Saturday,
Yeah.
so I'll get to like sleep in a little bit and get a little more
Yeah.
coffee, and I won't be on such a time crunch like I have been all week, and so I'll get to do more if I feel like doing more. But there should be a nice day to lay in the sun a little bit, get a little
Yeah,
bit of
that'll be
rest.
nice.
And we're gonna work on one little project that shouldn't take too long because we've already kind of done a
Mm,
lot of the thinking through, but follow
yeah.
through on the investor's recommendation. Let's
This
go
is
knock
this is where
that
we
one out.
test a little bit of our hypothesis on our reading between the line skills.
And at the worst case scenario is
We
we
go through
launch
the
it
motions.
good and it's fine. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we collect some other investors too.
Hmm. So it'll be a fun little weekend. Yeah, lots more to do, lots more coming up, and God, this is getting really exciting. This is where it's
It's
getting
really
like
exciting.
there's been like a lot of hard work since mid-December-ish last year, just getting this whole new app rolling out, all the work that we put in,
There were a
getting
few
this.
times you didn't sleep for days
There were
because
some
you were so
times.
amped up.
Oh, I remember New Year's. Yeah, like this goes back. So one story about New Year. So we started working on this. I think it was like early December. I told you that I wanted to invest in what you were doing. And then by mid-December, I went and ran a marathon on like December 10th or something like that because I just had this burst of energy to get out of my system and I wanted to go like I didn't I wanted to switch. I was like, how much do I really want to switch from the job I was doing that I'd invested like a year into this other company to try to get them into a good place? And they were kind of feeling like they were letting me down at that time. And then I was just like, I seen what you were doing. And I literally went and ran a marathon with no training, with no prep. It was just out of the blue. I wasn't running for days before. I wasn't preparing for it. I'm just like, now I'm gonna go buy
I
some
know.
chocolate bars and some grape juice and some water. And I went and I put a stash about like, I don't know, 8 miles out into the trail. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go run a marathon. And a part of what I was doing was like, I remember thinking a lot about how much do I want to switch? How much do I want to just like kind of go all in and build this app? And I went out, I ran that, and I came back. I'm like, I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And it was like a few days later, I just started building it, and you were like, yee.
Yeah.
And through Christmas, we hashed out a lot of some details through January, a lot of details. That's where we really started getting into building the algorithm that we have today. But I remember New Year's Eve, I went and did this silly fucking challenge where I was like, the challenge was to run 4 kilometers every 4 hours for 48 hours.
I know. And I remember shaking my head at you then, just like I'm
And it was
shaking
like
my head
minus
at you right now.
25 out, snowing. It's the middle of winter in Canada. It's cold as balls. I woke up the second night, I woke up at like 4 a.m. I had no sleep for almost 24 hours. I was so groggy, dragging my ass out. I ran 4K in minus 27. And I was like, what am I doing?
That's what I was thinking the whole time. What
And
are you doing? I told you it was a bad idea, didn't I? I was like, don't do
uh-huh.
it. Please don't do it. You're like, no, no.
I
Okay.
got through 6 rounds. I made it to like 28 hours. And I woke up at like 8 a.m. on the last
Yeah.
round, and I got like 1 kilometer down, and it was like my leg gave out. It was just like it couldn't take it anymore. I wasn't recovering between sets. And it
No.
was just like, oh
And it
no,
was too cold and it was, yeah.
very cold. So, but that's where I was. That's how much energy I had. I was like, that was the burst of energy, was just like, I had so much energy. I just wanted to run and be crazy
And I'm
four
pretty sure
hours.
that was followed on days of not sleeping, where like you
Oh
were just
yeah.
up coding for like 3 days straight. And I was like,
Yeah,
what are you
because
doing? You're like, well, I'm building the database and I'm building this and I'm doing that. I was like, but we have a database. You're like, yeah, but I want to do everything from scratch. And I'm like, okay, all right, go to it.
right, yeah, we had the other app, and you're like, you could just improve this one. I'm like, no, no, let me do my thing.
I'm
And
like,
at that time, you
okay,
were
do
just
your
like,
thing.
okay, I'm not paying you.
Go do your thing.
Let's see
Yeah.
what you come up with. I think there was a little bit of like, like, okay, let's just see how this plays out. And then about mid-January, I actually started putting up something that was working ish. We were starting to get to like some of the details. That's when we really started digging into that algorithm and kind of everything that we have today, and it kind of
Yeah.
just accelerated from there. So
It's
I
been
mean, this
really
is where this story has been quite a wild ride.
yes. Yes. In so many ways. Whew.
Right.
Can't
It's
wait
gonna
to
be an
see where the
interesting,
next year goes.
right. Yeah. The next year is going to be just this. I'm anticipating just a lot of growth. A lot
Mhm.
of growth, not just in our company, but in us too. We're going to have a lot of
Individually.
growth
Yeah.
as executives growing into this position, a lot of leadership. I know you've done this a lot before. It's new-ish to me. I mean, I've been around startup culture a lot, but none of them have really taken off to that point where it was like, okay, now you've got a team of 20 developers, go, right? Learn to delegate and all that stuff. So that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that though. I'm very,
Okay.
very looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and just building this whole thing up. Like, we are basically kind of building this thing from scratch,
We are.
right? And that's always been the funnest way to do things. It's like inheriting somebody else's business and just kind of building it, and you're dealing with their legacy and their mistakes and their clutter and stuff like that. I've always enjoyed like something like, no, I want to build my own. I want to build something like from the ground up, build the foundation of it, get a good foundation under this thing. And I think that's what we've got now,
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
We have a good foundation under the business, and this was something that I think people underestimate about startups. We have a good foundation under like our relationship too.
Yeah.
And I've watched so many startups fall apart because their founders don't get along. They don't trust each other. And it's when you get into things like things are going really well right now. They may not always. right?
Right.
Sometimes things will get tough. Sometimes we may get to a point in the future where we have 1,000 employees and then 100 of them want to quit all of a sudden. And it's just like, oh shit, we got some hard choices to make. Or maybe we have to lay off 300 people. You get into those kinds of situations that businesses just get into. It's not something you want to do. It's something that you end up being kind of forced to do. And you have to find those compromises. And that's where having that foundation of a good relationship, especially at the founder level, is so important. So that's what I'm excited about too. Looking at the future of this and realizing that, yeah, I don't think there's too much that we're going to end up facing where it's like, our trust is going to get shaken too much. And
I don't foresee any of that. Nobody does. So
that's true.
But whenever it has gotten shaken in the past, we tend to handle it and move forward.
And, yeah.
Fix it. So
yeah, it's been, and yeah, looking forward at all of this, it just looks very exciting.
I'm very excited for it. Maybe that's a good place to end for today.
I think so. I think we've covered a lot. There's a lot of good news in there. Lots of people to unpack. Hopefully they enjoy it all.
We have a few guests coming up. We have a guest coming up in October that I'm excited about.
That'll be our first guest, right?
Could be our second, depending on another one.
We may have another one. Cool.
We have another one.
This is the one you were saying on, what is it? Do we want to say the date yet?
For that one, yeah, hold on. I will tell you because I know I think it's is it a Tuesday or
a Monday?
Or a Monday.
The 18th, right?
Is it the 18th?
That's the one I think I had on my calendar. It's like October 18th.
It must be, but why don't I have it in my calendar? Yeah, I think it's the 18th. So we're gonna record that then.
And that's just a few days after our meeting or when our investor goes to meet with his board.
Yeah, so we just have to be available in case he has a question or something. But the fact that he feels that prepared about us.
Yeah, he didn't have a whole lot of questions. It was like, ooh, that's interesting. I like it.
He wanted us to pop in the comparison, the competitive comparison analysis that we have on our website. And that was easy for you to do.
Yep, that was a nice little copy paste.
We're done.
Yeah, that was the only thing he asked for. He's like, oh, do you have something that you could pop in here that's just like a little chart type thing? We're like, yeah, we got one of those.
It's on the website right now.
It's like, he's like, cool, guess you're done. Send it over and I'll go to my board. And that was the part you asked. Like, should we meet again in between then? He's like, nope, not necessary. I'm like, wow. That's not something you hear from investors. I've seen people come out of investor meetings. I've seen people come out of investor meetings with tears in their eyes. Because like
they got raked over the coals and didn't have answers and stuff like that.
Because they got grilled, they got interrogated. And it's like, and usually when an investor is interrogating you, it's because they don't think you got it. And they're interrogating you because they want to see they want to expose that weakness. They want you to see it because they don't want you wasting other people's time either. It's like, if you can't take the heat, you're not a chef. Get out of the kitchen. This isn't your game.
Right.
But I'm surprised he hasn't put us over the coals. Maybe it's just not yet. Or maybe we just won't. Maybe he just.
Maybe it's not necessary.
Right.
I mean, maybe the reason why you've seen that with other people is because they weren't confident. They didn't have their answers. They didn't have their shit together. And the investors smelled it and they.
And they're so good at that. Yeah, they do it like subconsciously. They just like, they have an intuition of like, there's chinks in this armor. Let me poke around and find the holes. Ooh, there's a soft spot.
Ooh, really fast. One of the bigger things that happened for you this week is you read my story. Huh?
Oh yeah, we didn't even get into that, did we? Talk about not sleeping. Yes. So you had written this story that was from from when was it? When does it start? Like
October of 2018.
Right. And it goes through your whole ordeal with your abusive ex-boyfriend, who would be Xander's father.
Yep. And
And
fighting the 2 custody battles and my son's diagnosis with epilepsy and yeah.
trying to keep business afloat and trying to not go bankrupt and trying to pay rent and not have your kids not being able to feed, yeah, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had started picking away at it, and it was like it was a little bit touchy for me because we're fairly close now, and I know a lot about you, but I never like, I started reading it, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot of emotions here, and probably more than just what you wrote in it, but just a lot of it myself too. And I'm like, I started picking away at it and started picking away at it. It was just like a couple of pages one night, a couple of pages the next night, and that was over the course of about a week and a half. And I think I got to like page 10 or 12, and then this Sunday, I woke up in the morning and I was like, I didn't really feel like going and doing a bunch of work and stuff. I was just kind of in a different headspace, almost like I'm just gonna start reading and see what happens. And then I started reading and reading and reading, and I got through about 50 pages, all in one sitting. And this is like the first half of this story, which is all the abusive stuff. It's all the really trauma, like the most traumatic portion of it. And it was just gut wrenching is an understatement, to say the least. Heartbreaking is pretty much on par. Um, and getting through all of that, I had to take a break. I didn't know when I was going to finish it, but I could kind of tell I was at a point too where the story was starting to turn, where it was starting to get away from, you were starting to move past it, you were starting to find your stride, you were running all the time and starting to work your way out of that mindset that had been kind of, you know, gaslit into you at that point. And then that evening, it was like 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night. And I was just like, I picked it back up. I think you were maybe watching TV or something, and you asked me what I was doing. And I was like reading the rest of the story. And you're like, really? And I just kept going and going and going. And by the time I was done, it was like 2 a.m. And I basically finished the whole story in one day. It's like 140 pages or something like that, right? And finished the whole thing. And I remember just there was so much about it. My head was spinning in like 7 different directions. But I was just like, no, sleep is not happening right now. And I just picked up my laptop and started working because my mind was just like, I need something to just kind of
Focus
distract
on.
myself. Yeah. And I kind of just jumped into work because it was a lot. It was definitely a lot to read. I mean, even now, it's still pretty hard to put any of it into words because it's like the fact that one human being could do that to another just not compute in my head. I mean, and especially someone like you who cares so much about people, who just wants to help people, and it's like that someone could come along and say, I don't care about those things, and just I don't, it's just
Yeah.
it's frustrating on a different level.
But what I think is beautiful, and I don't know much more than what we had kind of touched on yesterday while I was waiting for Xander's bus to come, which is right about the time that things started to turn for me, you started to change yourself. You went on your own
Mm,
path, and those paths eventually converged. That was middle of September of 2019. Things started turning around for both of us. My life started turning around. His father pled guilty. And then I found out the very next day that my son doesn't have a genetic disorder predisposing him to the epilepsy.
right.
That meant that this wasn't going to be a lifelong uphill battle because his genes were fighting him. This meant we can overcome this. And so those were 2 massive things that really started turning the tide for my story. And right about then, you got fucking fed up and you were like, I need a different path. And you started running and started working
Yeah.
on yourself. And eventually our paths converged together in
Mhm.
2020.
Yeah, that was one of the things that kept me up. Really, was I was reading through once I got to the closer to the ending of it, because you right through that part a little bit more quickly, a little less detailed on the day to day. But it got to this point where it was August, right at the very end of August of 2019 was the point where like I had probably been just very depressed, very, I mean, I'd been just kind of stuck in a zombie land kind of state for months, if not a good couple of years, just between video games and just eating and sitting in a chair and working on computer stuff, but not exercising, not eating healthy, and had just gotten to a point where I remember the night I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and this is like late August, early October, early September, so right around the same time period. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, and I'm like, I remember looking down the hallway, and I'm sitting there, and it's like my whole perception, like my sense of depth perception starts to fade away. My sense of like connectedness to myself, like whatever you want to describe it. I thought I was having a stroke. That's what it felt like in the moment. I'm like, am I dying? This is what I'm just going through my head. I'm like, I'm really starting to feel a little anxiety of like, I felt paralyzed. I felt like I couldn't move. I was kind of thinking like, should I be reaching for my phone and dialing 911? My dad's asleep. Nobody's going to call. It's like if I keel over with a stroke right now, it's like nobody's here to help me. Nobody's going to see it. And it's just like, this could be it. I could be biting the bullet right now. And it goes on for like 20 seconds. And the more it goes on, the more I'm like, and I remember starting to feel this sense of acceptance of like, okay, I'm just going to learn. I'm just going to let go. I don't think I quite understood the magnitude of what I was letting go of. I thought I was letting go of this, desire to live or whatever, but it really wasn't. I think I was letting go of like a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of like the
Resistance.
shame, right? And it was like, but I remember sitting there, and as soon as I got to this, like it was like, yeah, it just felt like I was disconnecting from my own head, like I was losing my consciousness because I would look down the hallway and it's like I couldn't tell how long the hallway was. It was like having like a stupid high fever or something. My spatial awareness was just gone, and then maybe 20 to 30 seconds this lasts, and then I just like snap out of it. And that day, that very next morning, I started walking religiously every morning, 5K every morning, until 5K became 10, 10 became 15, 15s became 20s and 30s and 50s. And I just kept going and climbing like I was climbing a goddamn mountain. And it was like it was a fuel and a fire that I've never felt before that time. And
Mm.
so whenever I was reading your story and I was like, oh, this is right when you started winning all this, you started climbing, you hit your kind of rock bottom out of all of this. And it's like, huh, universe is funny sometimes, huh?
Certainly seems to have its shit together, doesn't it?
Right. So I didn't sleep from that, because that was just kind of racing through my head, but that's where I just poured it into work. I think I got push notifications working, which was like a 13-step process of, dealing with Apple's wonderful APIs. And but it was just like I didn't care. It was just like, oh, I'm getting this done. I don't. It's just, we
In
can do this.
2019?
No, no, no. Monday night, Sunday
Oh,
night.
Monday night. Oh, yeah. I woke up to push notifications. I went, ah.
It's like, how is this working? How is this happening? I'm like, yeah, I did that last night. It's like, did you sleep? No.
And I was like, why? You were like, I finished the story, and I'm like, oh,
Oh,
was it
yeah.
was it that tough, huh? I mean, I stopped that part of it then because everything started really taking off in a great direction, and I just haven't gone back to finish the good stuff. But I figure, that's easy to remember. I love remembering and recalling that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote out the negative stuff so I didn't have to carry it around in my head anymore. So if anybody ever asked
Right.
me for a detail, it's like, well, it's in here. I don't
Yeah,
I
like
don't
where
even I let that go. It's out of my body, it's out of my brain. But the good stuff I keep so I can write that anytime. Or have a
yeah.
ghostwriter write it. Or a
Mm-hmm.
script
Yeah.
writer for a movie because boy, it would make
Uh-huh.
one hell of a movie.
Right. Yeah. Where you left off was more or less where we kind of started meeting each other. It was like
Mhm.
early 2020. We started just finding each other a little
Interacting a
bit
little on Twitter.
interacting a little bit on Twitter, and then it was right after my mom passed away at the end of March in 2020 that we
You
started.
started me.
Yeah, it was a few weeks later. We started working together as the coach, as the trainer, or the personal trainer, and then we got into more in-depth coaching, life coaching, and it all just went from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how we've kind of you ended that chapter of the story, and now we have whole new chapters being written.
Yeah.
We just haven't put them down yet. And yeah, we've floated around the idea of like, this is kind of a cool story. You could definitely write this into could be an interesting movie someday. I love that idea.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
and it's the kind of thing that you look back on everything that you've been through and it's like, hey, if this is a story that could inspire people, that could give some people some hope, then it makes that whole thing like, oh, it feels worthwhile now.
yeah.
Feels like it was
For
worth going through all that shit as a kid.
I think for that would be the reason to tell the story. That
Yes.
the if I can make it through that, then you can make it through your stuff
Hmm.
too. Everybody's got challenges. Some are, some have strokes and they have to rebuild their ability to walk,
Yeah.
or massive car accidents, and like, yes, that happens. We all know about that. Some of
And
these things, I'm like, my story is a little bit different.
a little bit,
Different.
just a little bit.
Yeah,
Mine's a
I
little bit different too. We've got our. I was making the like. There's a the difference between my story and your story to some extent is that my story plays out over 30 years, whereas yours is like crammed into three. Yours is like the condensed version of mine. Mine was like from when I was 6 to 35 or something like that. Yours was just like these 3 years where you got like all of that just packed all into one smaller time frame. You kind of went through it much faster.
yeah.
Mine was much more drawn out and
Well, that's like the difference between like a laser and a light bulb, right?
hmm
When it dissipates over time, over distance, it's far less intense. But that laser can
hmm
cut through damn near anything. And man, it
yeah.
felt like it was cutting through my entire life.
hmm
Yeah.
So that was
Yeehaw.
very interesting. And
But I
yeah,
would never want to tell the story without a happy ending.
that's the thing. And that's why this is what I do find some motivation in that now. It's like I really want to build this. I really want to get this thing off the ground because we really to tell any of our story and just it fizzles out into we kind of sort of make it and do some personal training or something. It's like no, 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 no. I mean, if people want to wonder where our heads are at and where we want to go with this, we want to be an IPO. We want to be on the stock exchange. We want to take this to the point where we're the biggest in the industry. Like we do not have this idea of like, oh, we just want to get to 2,000 clients. Like, no, we want 200 million.
Mm-hmm.
We want to help as many people as possible, and we want to scale this as big as it can get, and we believe we can.
Yes.
And we've got all the ideas that we need. It's just execution at this point. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we will have more good ideas come up. We will meet lots of very smart people, very creative people with interesting ideas. I think we've got a framework of how to get this thing to 200 million, of how to take on those MyFitnessPal type apps and say, yeah, you guys aren't doing a very good job. You're just doing the bare minimum. You're basically just an MVP that rolled out and didn't upgrade itself at all.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I look at those types of apps. It's like you're the minimum viable product, and that's all you ever got to. You
Yeah.
never built anything that was worth paying for. That's why you're getting 10 cents per user per month, which
Yeah.
is sad. When we've got 300 million clients, it's like, yeah, but you only make $300 million, not even. I make $30 million a month on 300 million people. It's like, that's sad. That's really sad. It's like your business is not worth anything. People are not willing to give you money. That means your product is no good. So, and this is where we want to get to. We want to get into that space where people are willing to pay for it because they see the value of investing in themselves through what we're offering.
And it works. I mean, for multiple doctors to say, oh yeah, this is what I'm recommending for you, and it's right here.
Yeah,
Already built
it's
is
validated by decades of people doing research, and this is what they're coming up with because this is what we're paying attention to. It's like we're not incorporating the pop science. We're not incorporating the Twitter bro verse of medical doctors that who even knows if half those people even have medical doctors. Like, damn, some of them are questionable at best.
mhm.
But this is like, trying to comb through the real science that's out there, all that gut microbiome, connections to the brain, all of that stuff is stuff I've seen talked about in different fields for years. So it's got lots of credibility to it, and it's very exciting stuff. It's very exciting to be incorporating this into
Psychobiotics is a
everything we're
relatively new field.
right.
8 or 9 years they've been studying that connection, but that's not very old. That's not a lot of time to collect a lot of data.
No,
It's not decades long, but I guarantee you I'm on the
this
front
is the
of
cutting
that.
edge. This is the
Yeah.
cutting edge.
This
Yeah,
is
it's
cutting
the
edge
cut.
medicine
Mhm. And this is
without
something that's
falling.
going to help lots of people because, right, and yeah, and I mean, the more we can get this in front of our clients quicker, then the more people we're going to help, and the bigger we're going to grow, the quicker we're going to grow in a quality way. Like, this is where we look to make that point against some of these other apps that are out there. We don't want to grow and just not be of value. We don't want just quantity. It's like we really want to help people, and we want to help millions of people. We want both. We want our cake and we want to eat it too, damn it. Only it's
And I
gluten-free
don't
cake.
see why not.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever said you can't have it was just,
A bully.
they were just jealous.
They were. Yes. You can't have your cake and eat it too. It's like, watch me. Hold my beer.
Right.
Hold my beer and give me that cake. I'll show you how to eat it.
That's right. And on that note, I think
All
that's a
right.
good place to end for today.
Uh-huh. For the second
As
time.
always, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure too. This has been a really exciting update. And looking forward to the next one. So many
Me
more cool things coming.
too.
All right.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.